Hello YouTube, welcome to my first video. Yes, it's a car video, another car video with a guy who has this kind of stuff on his lap. But no, it's not comics. Now the people who hollowed out and destroyed the comics industry, they have pretty much moved on. Their mission is accomplished. They are now moving on to the RPG industry. Which is always a tough nut for them to crack, because whenever they try to slide in kind of like silly stuff like early on, it was kind of easy just to ignore it if you wanted to. I guess if you want to throw it in, whatever, it was so small. It wouldn't matter, but they're learning their lesson. So they know that, as a DM, you can always, kind of chuck out what you don't want. But what happens when you build a setting that is just so permeated with leftist nonsense that you literally can't get away from any of it? It's so woven into the fabric that it's impossible, pretty much, without rewriting it wholesale, to not deliver some of this stuff. It's quite something. Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel. I'm going to try to review this book as best I can. It's a series, it's a setting, and it gives like 14 kind of like related adventures around it. There's Birthright. Best setting TSR ever did, by the way. TSR, now Wizards of the Coast. I think second edition was probably the high point as far as creativity and setting. I know like third edition was a revolution in game mechanics. One that I agree with. I'm not just some Luddite who plays OSR and never adapts. In fact, we're playing 5th edition right now. But as far as like creativity and settings, we get Birthright. I think that second edition is kind of when Forgotten Realms found its footing. I think Mystara, like Ravenloft, that's when a lot of the best Ravenloft stuff, and also Planescape. I guess the reason I bring up Planescape is it was pretty cool, a little edgy when you look back on it, but it's still pretty cool. The main city in Planescape was the city of Sigil, in case you don't know, which is kind of this city that kind of floats out in the middle of the plains, which was kind of like a hub. They had doors that would take you everywhere. The Radiant Citadel has crystal buses, go figure. But yeah, it's the Radiant Citadel. Definitely, they definitely, let's just say, took inspiration from Planescape and the city of Sigil in particular. The Radiant Citadel is it's like a city with I'll show you a quick picture so I don't get struck, but there it is. It's just like a city with a big diamond spike, I guess, through it. It's really kind of dumb. It's poor design. It's not really inspiring. In Sigil, you could kind of look up and you could kind of see the city bending up on itself. So I think, from what I remember, if you looked up, you were actually looking up at the city, the part of the city that was opposite you, which is kind of cool. I don't know. I guess it took you a little while to get your mind around it. Nothing like that here. This is just nothing but a vehicle to deliver leftist nonsense to you. They they are out and proud, and I think this book is essentially Wizards of the Coast crossing the Rubicon and saying, we have no interest anymore in the old way of doing things. We are going hard in the paint, as they say. capture this market. And who knows, maybe it'll be profitable. I mean, certainly the player base is a lot bigger in D&D right now, and young people are very prone to like this kind of idiocy. They don't know, of course, that it really doesn't work in the real world, and it wouldn't work in a fantasy world either, but it's neither here nor there. I mean, right on Jump Street, they get you. I'm going to go through, like, the first video is just going to kind of touch on, like, what the Citadel is itself, and then I'll kind of touch on the low points of the adventures. But right away, they're telling you how to play this game. I mean, before they even start, like, hey, listen up. If you want to play this game, all right, if you're the DM, you better describe skin colors this way. No more black and white. It's got to be, onyx or copper. Take care. Watch out there, pilgrim. You better watch your step. Talking about details, not stereotypes. They even give you. They even give tips if you want to dress up. I guess if you play like on Roll20. I play with friends in person, old school. But if you dress up, they tell you, like, don't change your hairstyle, don't change your skin color, and most importantly, no funny accents. Yes, they actually wrote that. No funny accents. Wow, we haven't even started the Radiant Citadel, like the description of that yet. Now they're just telling you the new way to play. The new order, as it were. So what is this Citadel? It's a place that has this giant iceberg crystal sticking up out of both ends, and I guess, for lack of a better word, like crystal buses, like, come and go to the city, like, at all times. It's really weird, and it's kind of really dumb. It sounds like something Monty Cook would do. I don't know. So some of the examples of just the blatant leftism of how this city works. They immediately talk about how trade in the city, like in the markets, is done on equitable terms. That serve the needs of cities and nations or major companies, rather than individual sellers. So they don't like small businessmen, which is really stupid, because in their first adventure, the people that you're supposedly helping, and even the guy that's kind of the villain, kind of not, it's a small family business. So these are the people that apparently you learn in the intro that you're supposed to like look down your nose at, and yet they're the heroes in the first adventure. It's there's a lot of that here. First, there's another part on diplomacy where they talk about political activists taking advantage of the city, seeking to exploit it, and staging incursions against their home governments. Pretty much just a reference to January 6th. But it doesn't make any internal sense. The adventure design here, in addition to being a leftist, is just inconsistent and stupid, because you apparently have these bad actors coming into the city, yet at some other point they talk about the entry points into the city where guards will use a helm of telepathy to suss out anyone with motives which are not good. So which is it? I mean, do you catch these guys? Do you not? Do you just let them go? I don't know. Of course, they have a kind of a pet NPC, and of course, it's an Indian, like an Eastern Indian woman named, I think, Shola, I think is her name, and she's really a dragon, but apparently she likes to dress like an Indian woman. And of course, she's legendary and the awesomest and the best ever. But as I was reading it, I was kind of thinking back to Planescape and how, and this is back in the mid 90s, early to mid 90s was Planescape. You had the Lady of Pain there, who was pretty cool. Like I said, a little edgy, when you look back on it. But honestly, the less you know, the better. And the less you knew about the Lady of Pain, you really didn't know much, unless you found it out kind of through adventuring. Here, they're already telling you right away, oh, Shola's just amazing. She's really, really cool. She's just amazing. Just awful. Not nearly as interesting as the Lady of Pain. Oh, boy. And she's like one of the leaders of this city. They talk about refugees coming here all the time. I guess if you're a refugee and you come to the Radiant Citadel, you get like basic income and your dignity is guaranteed. I'm not sure how that's possible, but whatever. The poorest are served without charge. They're healed without charge. Taxes are progressive, of course. This is all stuff they say outright. I mean, I'm not lying. When I say basic income, they literally say, anyone coming in gets basic income. So, of course, anyone with half a brain would start to ask themselves, well, why wouldn't every poor person in the multiverse come here? I mean, you're free to enter, you get basic income. I mean, this economy would collapse in like 2 weeks. But, you're not allowed to ask that. There's all kinds of incompetence. They tell you that most of the food in the Citadel is vegetarian. But at other points, they go to great pains to tell you, like, livestock comes in on these crystal ships. It's like public transportation buses that come in. They mention livestock in the marketplace, and the only thing they say is that there's a high tariff on food. It's like, well, what are you trying to prove here? That everybody's a vegetarian, or that there's livestock running around the streets everywhere? It's very confusing, very silly. It seems like it was written, honestly, by like a 6th grader. I don't know. I think mentally, that's where a lot of these people are. They also, they do a lot of, just padding. They tell you that the Speaker of the Ancestors, serves a 10-year term, and then they can run again if they want, and but hey, they'll have to stand. They could have summarized it in one sentence. Speaker for the Ancestors has a 10-year term and then has to run for re-election. They literally make a small paragraph out of that. Hey, I mean, I guess that's one of the least things they do. But the problem with this city is it's just boring. They say theft is uncommon. There's rare incidents of violence. Although I found it funny, they said when there are those rare incidents of violence, citizens are expected to intervene. So I guess they do believe in good guys with guns. Go figure. But why would you want to adventure here? Or, I mean, I guess this would be a good place to retire probably if you were an adventurer. But it's just so boring. Look, I don't want to go too long. I'm going to cut it off here. Are there any good things in this? There's a couple of okay ideas. There's these things called the Dawn Incarnate. They're like spirits that inhabit these gems, and of course these gems can float around and make shapes. I saw one that made this shape of like a scorpion. I don't know. I guess in the right hands that might have been kind of cool. Here it's just kind of like, it's not aggressively bad. So hey, there's also the leader of the Shield Breakers, which I think is basically the organization you're expected to join. They give you quote unquote missions to go do. His name is, I wrote it down, Aryat. They didn't seem to mess with him. He seemed to have kind of like your standard story. In any other product, you wouldn't have even thought twice about it, but because things are so just terrible in this book, you're kind of like, whoa, this guy's cool. I guess in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. So I'm going to let it go here. In my next video, I'm going to try to go through the first adventure, which man, if you want to talk about small potatoes, whew, the first adventure here is just for such low stakes. It's rather amusing. It's also, of course, boring as hell and just full of cutesy wokeness. So anyway, I'm gonna let it go here. Thanks for listening. If you like this video, I'm just getting started. Hit the like button, and if you want to keep seeing my reviews of the adventures, I think there's 14 of them. I don't know if I'm going to get to do all of them, but I'll do as many as I can that seem entertaining. Just hit the subscribe button. Thanks. Bye.